Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hawks Latest, your number one source for news, updates, rumors, opinions, and you guessed it, the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. I'm your host, Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL, and today we've got a loaded episode because the NBA season has officially concluded, NBA champion was named, and the offseason can officially get underway. And for the Atlanta Hawks, it's shaping up to be one of the most pivotal summers in recent memory, maybe even in franchise history. They've got a lot to cover and address, and they should do so. With the NBA, so many things are going to be changing this offseason, and the Hawks, well, could be one of those teams. So we're going to talk about the OKC Thunder's championship win, how Tyrese Halliburton's injury last night could reshape the Eastern Conference going into next season, and how wide open it truly could be. We're going to talk about the Kevin Durant trade that also went down yesterday. Yesterday was a busy day in the NBA, and so obviously we've got to cover it all here on Hawks Latest, and really what that trade means for Atlanta. And plus, we're going to take a closer look at Terance Mann, someone the Hawks acquired at last season's deadline, and really what his future in Atlanta is. I mean, should the Hawks keep him or move on? Obviously he's making $15 million annually, so it's something to consider. So without further ado, let's jump right in and talk about how the Oklahoma City Thunder are your 2025 NBA champions. So they took down the Indiana Pacers in a dramatic 7-game series that kind of had an underwhelming ending. However, it was still an awesome series, and it's good to see a small market team win a championship for the first time in their franchise's history. It gives hope to other franchises who haven't won a championship in their city, but are looking to take that leap in the next few seasons. I might be referring to the Atlanta Hawks here. Who knows? This is Hawks' latest, after all. So, this is obviously the Thunder's first title since relocating from Seattle, and it came from the brilliant play of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren, an awesome young big three that has really taken the NBA by storm this year. So, obviously, with that, the 2024-25 NBA season is officially over, and while offseason movement has already been underway, Desmond Bane got traded to the Orlando Magic for 4 first-round picks, and just yesterday, Kevin Durant got traded before the Game 7 of the finals. So we can now say it's open across the league. So for the Atlanta Hawks, this is a summer that could define the next era of basketball in the city. Obviously Atlanta has their core locked up, but it's really what they do around their core this offseason that makes it so important, and really can give Hawks fans kind of a picture of what the ownership and the front office really view for this young core and for this franchise in general. So Atlanta holds 2 first-round picks in the upcoming draft, as we know, which is now just 2 days away, number 13 and number 22. Both are extremely solid assets in what's considered a very deep and flexible draft class. One of the deepest draft classes we have seen in quite some time, and especially in recent memory. And on top of that, the Hawks have 2 major financial tools at their disposal this offseason. They have a $12.8 million mid-level exception that obviously can be used in free agency to bring in a guy who potentially might want to come in and be a bench piece for the Hawks. And they also have the league's highest massive $25 million trade exception, which was obviously created last offseason when they traded DeJounte Murray to the New Orleans Pelicans. This is a major asset that the Hawks need to use, and obviously there is a deadline with that trade exception, so there's going to be some pressure for the Hawks to, cook something up with that pretty soon. And there could be a good time to use it, which will be Wednesday during the NBA draft. So that gives GM Onzi Soleil a ton of flexibility to reshape this roster in his first season as the Atlanta GM. And speaking of Soleil, he is set to speak to the media later today for the very first time since taking the job, just a few weeks ago. That availability could give us real insight into the team's direction and, obviously heading into the draft and free agency. It's going to be good to hear from the guy who's leading the way for the Hawks. Obviously, he joined the franchise over a year ago, and we really haven't seen much of this guy. Like I said a few days ago, there's only 2 pictures of him on the internet. That's the only proof of him actually existing. But it'll be good to see his overall cadence and, what he really wants to bring to the table for this franchise. So he's going to have media availability later today. So obviously tune in, and we'll probably cover that on tomorrow's episode. So, I mean, the clock is ticking. The NBA draft is now just 2 days away. So let's see what the Hawks do with it. So now moving on, while Game 7 was, a great moment for OKC and an awesome moment for a small market, there is that other side to it, and it came with a devastating blow to the Indiana Pacers and the entire Eastern Conference. Pacers star Tyrese Halliburton obviously went down with a injury early in the first quarter, which is obviously what is believed to be a torn Achilles tendon. Initial reports indicate that if it is a torn Achilles, he will obviously be expected to miss the entire 2025-26 NBA season, which is just horrible news for him and the Indiana Pacers, because they had this incredible run, and Halliburton's such a likable player, a likable guy. It's kind of the last person you would ever want to see something like this happen to. But unfortunately, the NBA is tough, and stuff like that happens. I mean, it's the third Achilles injury to a major Eastern Conference star this postseason, which is just ridiculous and unheard of. Before Halliburton, we saw Jason Tatum go down with an Achilles injury. He's going to miss all of next year. We saw Damian Lillard go down with an Achilles injury. He's going to miss almost all of next year. I mean, they've suffered similar fates, and they all wore number 0, which is kind of weird. So that's 3 of the top players in the East, all likely sidelined for all of next season. So what does this mean for the Atlanta Hawks? Opportunity, ladies and gentlemen. You got to capitalize off of it, as unfortunate as it is. But with Boston, Milwaukee, and Indiana all probably taking a step back next year, the East is as wide open as it's been in years. I mean, we thought it was open this past year when the Pacers went to the finals. It's 50 times more wide open next year with all of these injured teams. The time is now for the Hawks. Atlanta, I mean, if they play their cards right, can absolutely rise in the standings, and it's something that I hope they do right. Please do not screw this up, Hawks. They have their core together. They have a starting 5 who, if healthy, is still one of the best in the East. I mean, healthy this year, they were the 5 seed. So if they stay healthy, add the right depth pieces, they could be in contention for that top 4, maybe 3 seed. I mean, with no major moves, I believe this roster, with internal growth from Jalen Johnson, Onyeka Okongwu, Dyson Daniels, Zachary Beasley, maybe even guys like Kobe Buffkin, and they could finish as a 4 or 5 seed, like I said, with hopes of maybe even being top 3 if they get really aggressive. That might be asking for a little too much, but guys, it is right there. The timing couldn't be better, and as unfortunate as it is for these other guys, the Hawks are in a great position in the Eastern Conference. So now we're going to talk about how, obviously 2 blockbuster trades went down pretty recently, and obviously the first one was Desmond Bane, but just yesterday, Kevin Durant, one of the best scorers of all time, was just traded to the Houston Rockets, a young, promising team. Now, I mean, obviously, the Hawks were briefly linked to Durant earlier this month as a team that might, quote-unquote, check in, but those rumors never really gained much traction internally. At 36 years old with, some injury concerns and a $54 million expiring contract, Durant's value simply just isn't what it once was, and that's not an indictment on him as a player, but it's just the truth of the situation. Still, though, this move does create some interesting ripple effects, especially for a team like Atlanta. So the Rockets now have a logjam at forward. Jabari Smith Jr. could be a guy that becomes available, or maybe if they decide to keep Jabari Smith, maybe a guy like Tari Eason or Cam Whitmore. I mean, all these are players that the Hawks should absolutely inquire about. I mean, at least call Houston, check up on them. I mean, at just 22 years old, Smith still has significant upside. And he fits the Hawks' need for size, floor spacing, switchability, and real versatility in the second unit as a backup forward. Meanwhile, though, on the Phoenix side, it wouldn't be surprising to see them try to shed some of the veteran contracts that they have, kind of moving in a different direction as an organization. They've got guys like Grayson Allen, who's on a $16 million contract, and Royce O'Neal, who's on a $10 million contract. Both of those guys are names to watch as potential trade pieces for the Atlanta Hawks. I mean, both would add shooting, both would add veteran toughness, and Royce O'Neal in particular has familiarity with Quinn Snyder's system, obviously from their time in Utah. They quote-unquote they supposedly have a great relationship, and maybe that's something that could carry over in Atlanta, and Royce would be a great veteran presence. So both of those guys are, guys that the Hawks should consider. I mean, if Atlanta is serious about pushing up the East standings, they'll be aggressive, and this is the kind of opportunistic trade market that they need to explore. I mean, there's value to be found if they are proactive in these trade discussions and potentially reaching out to teams that just made a deal, because it's clear that they are willing to work this early in the offseason. So something else I'm going to talk about is one of the Hawks' more under the radar moves at the 2025 trade deadline was acquiring Terance Mann from the Los Angeles Clippers, obviously for Bogdan Bogdanovic. Mann played in 30 games for the Hawks last season. He averaged almost 10 points, 3 rebounds, and 2 assists per game. He did shoot an impressive 38.6% from three, and he brought some defensive tenacity on the perimeter, something Atlanta was deeply lacking other than obviously Dyson Daniels. Mann fit well with the team. He was someone who I felt pretty comfortable bringing off the bench. He had some great games where he was a pretty good scorer and he was affecting the game at all three levels, guarding multiple positions. So he's a guy who could be a value piece for the Hawks next season. But the big question now is, should the Hawks keep him or trade him? So Bleacher Report's Dan Favale recently called Mann the Hawks' most expendable mid-level or larger size salary at $15 million per year, which is a pretty hefty contract for a guy that, contributes what Mann does. He's not exactly a bargain, especially for someone who really didn't solve any of Atlanta's issues last season. I mean, he brought a good presence in and definitely contributed well in certain games and certain moments, but he didn't really address Atlanta's major problems. And I mean, with the Hawks expected to add several wings this offseason, whether through the draft, free agency, or both, Mann could easily be the odd man out. I wouldn't be too insanely surprised seeing him go somewhere else this offseason. I mean, he does fit the identity Quinn Snyder is building. I mean, scrappy, switchable, team first, wings. But if moving him helps Atlanta address the backup point guard spot or, fortify the front court a little bit, the team shouldn't hesitate to move him if the deal is obviously right. I mean, the bottom line is this: Terance Mann is a solid role player, but for a team trying to maximize Trae Young's prime, solid might not be good enough. He might be moved in a deal for either a better player or for potentially some picks down the road that you could package for a better player. So that's going to do it for today's episode of Hawks Latest. I mean, the NBA offseason is officially here, so we're going to be cranking out videos every single day, and I hope you guys are enjoying it. We just hit over 30 videos, and the growth has been great, so thank you guys for tuning in.